Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to my video where I rank the survival chances for various My Hero Academia characters. As you can see from my tiermakerlist.com list that you've seen from various YouTubers over the years, I'm sure, I've thrown together some of the most interesting names that I want to talk about as the series comes closer to its end in the manga, and I want to kind of talk about each of these characters. I've included all Class 1A as well as some various other adults that I find interesting that potentially might die. I'm going to rank their chances of my own personal opinion, if I think that they're going to die by the end of the series, if they're going to survive. This is going to be a very laid-back, casual video, but I'm sure to make a few of you mad if I pick one of your favorites to die or something, but that's just the way it goes. It's my opinion, so let's dive on in. Also, I just want to add, this was Andrew Miller's suggestion. He's a Patreon. He sent me a message saying this would be a fun video to do, and I agreed. So here I am making the video, and I'm very excited to get into it. One last disclaimer. This is a manga reader-oriented tier list. If you don't read the manga and you don't want to be spoiled for various events that have happened in the future of the anime, don't watch any further. You have been warned. Alright, so the first tier we have is would be shocked if they lived, pretty self-explanatory. If they're in this tier, in my opinion, I really don't like their chances of living by the end of the series. There could be various reasons why they could be on this tier as well as any other tier, but we'll dive into that more as we go. Then we have very likely. I'd say that's like a 60 to 80% chance I think that they die, but there's a chance they might live. On the fence, there's a few characters that are definitely, I already know who I want on this section. It's like it says, it's like a 50-50, it's a coin toss. I could make an argument for both sides as to why they would still be here. Doubt it. This is characters that I think might possibly die, but I just don't see the writing on the wall for them. Not a chance. These are characters I feel are completely safe, again, for various reasons that I'll dive into. And then Mineta tier. Mineta tier is for characters that probably won't die, but a lot of people would be happy if they did die. So I'm curious to see who makes the cut for that one. Yeah. Alright, let's dive on in. First character we have is Momo. Momo is a fascinating character. She's a great character, but nothing about her character arc at the moment implies that it leads to a self-sacrificing moment, or she doesn't have any major villains set up against her. She is a relatively safe character in terms of danger. Like, there's nothing pressing that's going to potentially eliminate her down the road. Now, obviously, I guess since is the first character we can say this, anything can happen. Horikoshi could just randomly decide to have someone die, but this is kind of going off my own logic and how I think things will go. So, Momo, not a chance. Mr. Compress. Mr. Compress is an interesting one. Last we saw of him, first of all, we saw he was gorgeous with that face reveal, but we also saw chunks of his body getting removed for him to kind of sacrifice his own well-being to help the League. And as far as we know, he's recovering at a hospital. So, and we don't really know what his character arc is. We know he's the descendant of a master thief. So I'm going to put Mr. Compress and doubt it, because while there's a chance he could die potentially down the road if he ever gets out of the prison, maybe he goes to help the villains in one final fight. I can't be like, oh, he's up here, you know. I don't see that happening. I'm going to put Mr. Compress and doubt it. I don't think he's in too much danger, but again, he's pretty messed up right now, so anything can happen. We come to probably the dumbest character in Class 1A, Kaminari. I am going to put him down here and not a chance. Kaminari, as dumb as he is, and just the lack of confidence you might have for him to survive in a harrowing situation. Again, it'd feel kind of out of left field if Kaminari, of all characters, died. You know, like, sometimes I go by logic in terms of how the story is going. Other times I just go by gut feeling. Kaminari, can you see him just passing away by the end of the series? I don't think so. I don't think there's a chance that he's, I don't think you have to worry, Kaminari fans. All right, now we have Todoroki. Todoroki is interesting, if only for the fact of the character we're going to talk about next. So Todoroki, his whole family, you know, has a lot of death potential. Now, I will say, out of all the people that are involved in this drama, that are combatants, that are actually fighting, I would put Todoroki into doubt it territory, bordering onto not a chance. But I think there's a very minute chance that maybe, possibly, he dies. But again, I don't expect it. I don't think it'll happen. I think him and his dad will confront Dobby, and I think a fight will happen. But if anyone is going to perish from that family struggle, I don't see it being Todoroki. I think he's going to be the one, if any, to carry on and to sort of lift the family name. So I think that's a good spot for Todoroki. Speaking of the Todoroki family, I guess that's Shoto. So I always call him Todoroki. His actual name is Shoto. But for the rest of the Todoroki family, we have Dobby, aka Toya. So Dobby, this is the first character that really gets interesting to me. Dobby, most people would assume that he is going to be dead by the end of the series because of his attitude. Like, he was fully ready to kill himself at the end of the war, right? Right in front of Shigaraki and the whole reveal of what Endeavor did to the family. He was ready to go right there. He was about to do a prominence burn, which would have been hugely devastating to the heroes, but also probably would have destroyed Dobby because we know the fire hurts himself. So, here's the thing though, the Todoroki subplot, it very much to me feels like they're trying to rescue him. Now, I don't necessarily think that they'll be successful. I think that they can hope and wish for a happy family all they want and for everyone to come back together again. And I personally kind of would like that too. We're going to talk about another character later that has sort of been teased as potentially being saved. But of the two that have been teased to be saved from the villain side, Dobby to me feels like the one that might actually potentially maybe be saved in the end. I still think it's likely that he'll go out in a blaze of glory, pun definitely intended, but I don't know. Like, I think that there is there's a decent chance that he will live, and I think that Horikoshi might be setting up the Todoroki family to be somewhat healed / reunited by the end. But again, the writing's on the wall. It very much feels like Dobby is down a path that you don't come back from. But again, we'll have to wait and see. I should mention, and I'll mention this again for a character later, that the time of this recording, chapter 332 is the newest chapter that has released, and that's unofficial too. The official one doesn't come out until Sunday. So we don't like. That's to kind of put into perspective where my mind's at here. So that's Dobby. That's where I would put Dobby personally. For some reason, I have Todoroki on here twice. Ignore that. I'm not really sure why I had him. Sorry about that, Todoroki. Okay, next we have Kirishima. Now, here's another interesting one. Kirishima, to me, more than any of the students outside of Bakugou and Deku potentially. I'll talk about them later. I think Kirishima has an extremely interesting case to be made that he could die. The reason is, if anyone remembers back when he was fighting with Rappa fighting against Rappa with Fat Gum, his whole ideology is never, like, it's self-sacrifice. It's putting yourself in the way to protect others no matter what the cost. And if you remember the Crimson Riot video he was watching, he was saying how the most horrible thing that ever happened to him was seeing someone's face as they died. And he said that's what drives him to be the best hero he can, so he never sees that again. And if Kirishima really takes that to heart, I could totally see a situation where he dives in the way of like a Nomu, or if Gigantomachia comes back for round 3, that he could dive in and protect someone at the risk of his own life. I'm going to put Kirishima on the fence. I think of any 1A character, outside again of Deku and Bakugou, who I'll talk about later, he has the most potential to go out that way. And specifically with this next character that we'll talk about right now, Mina. I'm not going to make this a shipping video. While I do support Kira Mina, I think it's a great ship. This isn't, what I'm about to say isn't implied to hint at them being like in relations, but clearly they have history together with Gigantomachia. It started out the first instance where Mina was brave enough to step in and Kirishima froze. The second instance, Mina once again acted first, but she froze in fear when she was remembered of this harrowing, haunting, traumatic experience. And then that's when Kirishima jumps in to push her out of the way, and he gets grabbed by Gigantomachia. Obviously, he was hard enough to survive it, but that just shows that Kirishima really has evolved to that, like, I'll do whatever it takes to protect others, even if I die mantra. Now, why would I put Mina in even in the range of possibly dying? The reason I'm gonna put her in doubt it, like I think there's a chance, but I don't think it's likely at all. Is if there was a situation where this time Kirishima is the one in trouble, whether let's say like Giganto saw him, got mad because he remembers he's the one that gave him that drug that put him to sleep. Totally realistic situation. And then he goes to like either take out Kirishima, maybe he realizes he can't crush him, so he like swallows him or something. And then you'll have Mina potentially dive in to save him. Now, I don't think this will happen. I'm not saying that she couldn't go in to save him, but I don't think that she'll die per se, because that would just further haunt the situation with Kirishima, how his idol said that the worst thing I ever saw was the face of someone as they died, and if that happened with Mina, that would just be extremely tragic, and I don't think that happens with Horikoshi's style, the way he does things. So I'm going to put her in the doubt it category. Again, I'd put this at less than like 5, like it's less than 10, maybe like 5% chance, right? I don't see it happening. Kirishima, though, I could totally see him not only sacrificing himself for her, but for any student, for anyone in need, you know? And so that's why I put Kirishima on the fence and Mina in the doubt it category, if only just because of their connection. Next, we have Izawa. Izawa, it's fascinating. At a certain point, if you would have asked me, he would have been up here, like on the fence, or very likely, especially in the war, especially like when man, Izawa, what a beast. Cut off his own leg, kept his eyes open, just took an absolute beating. I thought there was a chance that he could have died, and it could have been like a martyr for the students to like not get revenge, but like do justice to the teacher that they love so much. But now he's in a situation I don't see that happening. I'm tempted to put him in not a chance. Honestly, I'm tempted to put him in not a chance, but I'm gonna go doubt it, just because I could see him still maybe doing something to protect his students, because we know he cares so deeply about them. But unfortunately, at this point, he has a prosthetic leg. He's not going to be doing ninja flips like he used to do anymore. He's down to one eye. Like, he's very much, I'm not going to say a shell of his former self, because he's still a beast, but he's very much limited now in his capabilities as a fighter. And I wonder if that would also limit the chances of him doing something to like sacrifice himself for another character. Again, that's just sort of my thought process. I think Izawa is pretty much in the clear. I think if he was going to die, it would have been back in the war, but it didn't happen, so that is where Izawa goes for now. Alright, so a lot of, just a spoiler, a lot of these students, I wanted to name this not relevant enough tier, and why I say that is, if the character isn't relevant, Horikoshi's not going to kill them off, because like that would just be like a senseless, sad death, and Horikoshi, we know, doesn't like to do that. So I'm putting Hagakure here. I'm just going to go through a lot of these right now. Tokoyami, I'm going to put here. Koda, I'm going to put here. Shoji, no, Ojiro, Shoji. Let's see, Froppy. Who else we got? Aoyama, Sero, Sato, Jiro. Am I missing anyone? Okay, yeah, those are the only one, and I don't want to like make anyone mad when I say not relevant enough. I just mean that these are great characters, but they don't have a significant role in the story or their own character arcs to where you could be like, yeah, maybe they could die. Like if Horikoshi wouldn't kill them off. Like there's no way to me. So yeah, I'm just gonna put those characters in not a chance until something drastic happens. But all right, next we have Uraka. Uraka's interesting. Uraka has obviously very close ties with Deku, who we'll talk about later. But we saw her jump into a very scary situation with Deku when his black whips were going wild. And she's clearly not afraid to do that if it means to. And her whole character arc is who is going to help the heroes when they need help, right? It's like she specializes in being a rescue hero. I could totally see her jumping into a situation where it would be very dangerous and potentially something could happen. Like the Black Whip thing, that's scary shit. Deku can't control that. Anything can happen, but yeah, she jumped in anyway. Obviously, she cares about Deku, but she would do that for anyone, like a hero, a civilian, whatever the case. That being said, I really don't think Uraka is gonna die in this series by the end. I don't like. Can you picture her dying? I can't. I just can't. Like, I don't think it's gonna happen. I don't have any great logic behind that. It's just a gut feeling. Uraka is too kind and sweet, and Horikoshi would be too sad to probably kill her off, if I'm being honest. So, all right, next up we have Morio Togata. As we saw during the war, he now has his quirk back, but we haven't really seen him do anything since then. And it's kind of a wonder what his character arc is from here on out. What could it lead to? For a while, it was hinted that he was a potential guy that could be the next holder of One for All. Obviously, we know Deku became the one to have that. And we also know that being quirkless actually helped Deku. Like, if Morio had it, he would have died, probably. But where does that leave Morio? He just kind of showed up, didn't do a whole lot in the war, but we know he has his quirk back. And it's a quirk that's essentially invincibility. Here's the thing. I'm going to put Morio in not a chance. And you might be like, wait, why would you put Morio in not a chance? Morio already had his sort of self-sacrificing moment. Obviously, it didn't cost him his life, but it cost him his quirk. And it was a very integral and important moment, not just for him, but in the story of My Hero Academia. And I don't see something like that just being repeated. Horikoshi, I'd be so shocked if he did a thing again with Morio where he kind of did a similar thing. But that's just me. Maybe some of you might put him up here and very likely or on the fence. But yeah, I don't know. Something about the way that his character is, like he'll like jump in the way for someone or fight a villain that's impossible for him to beat, but he also has permeation. Permeation is literally the ultimate defense and evasion tool. You can't, and he's mastered it, so you can't get hurt. He only took that dart for Arie because he let it happen. He didn't want her to lose her quirk. So yeah, I'm putting him in not a chance just because I don't see it. All right, so now we have Overhaul, a character I never thought we'd actually have to talk about again, but here he is. The reason I'm talking about him now is because he's actually back into the story. We saw him tagging along with Lady Nagant, and we know he wants to he wants to go to his master, probably try to heal him, because he had put him in that induced coma. This is a character that I never really fully understood or got behind or really cared about as a character, but that's more of a personal thing that I just wanted to throw out there. So when I say that, like, I doubt it that he'll die, I kind of say that out of necessity because he's back in the story, and clearly, so there's apparently like a Plus Ultra book that came out recently, and it details that he can maybe use his quirk with his feet now. So he might do some combat, he might do some other things, who knows. But actually, you know what, on the fence, because I could totally see him not just caring about anything anymore and just doing something reckless for his own sake. So yeah, I'm gonna put him on the fence. It can go either way. I don't really, like I said, I don't have any investment in this character, but he's back, so you gotta talk about him. And it's still an unknown. Again, the most recent chapter at the time of this recording is 332. We still don't really know what his deal is, where his arc is going, but that's sort of how I feel about that. All right, now we have Toga. Toga Party. Another member of the League of Villains. For anyone who knows what's up, her best friend twice has already passed. He left us in the war arc. And Toga, it's sort of up in the air as to, first of all, what her allegiance is. Is she still following Shigaraki and All for One? It's kind of been hinted that, no, it's not the case. She's kind of doing her own thing. Some people speculate she might join the heroes. Who knows? But as for her surviving by the end, I think I'm going to put her on the fence. We don't really know enough to plot a trajectory for where her character might end up. Maybe she'll find the reasons to live that is inspired from Ochako and Deku and whatnot. But maybe, I don't know, like, it's hard to say. Toga's one of the ones I really don't know. I just don't know. And I'm happy to admit that. I just really have no clue where her character's going, if she'll live, if she'll die. All right, I'm just gonna put her on the fence. I think anything is possible with Toga. Yeah, let me know what you guys think down below with Toga. That's an interesting one. All right, Gran Torino. Gran Torino is kind of an annoying case. For all intents and purposes, he should be dead. He got impaled by Shigaraki on the middle of the battlefield, and he's an old man. Like that combination, he had no reason to survive to the hospital and whatnot. And it's somewhat sort of implied that he did pass away. That's why Deku had his cape. It's kind of up in the air. We haven't had any confirmation yet. It'd be really weird though if he died off screen without any mention. But that being said, I guess just by, I'm gonna put very likely, just because I think that either he's already dead and they haven't just like shown it, or like, Gran Torino, he should have died on the battlefield. That would have been such a better fit for his character. Man, I don't know. His situation bothers me. But it's up in the air still, so we don't know. I'm putting very likely for now, just kind of almost out of spite, a little bit. Again, don't mean to make anyone mad with my rankings on how likely I think it is for them. Speaking of another character that should be dead, Lady Nagant. Lady Nagant is interesting. Unfortunately, I have to put her at not a chance, because while she should have perished with what All for One did with this trap with Deku, where she literally exploded from the face/body, and she lived. We know for sure she lived. She's at a hospital. She's even giving information to the heroes. And it's just like, why? I mean, like, this is fresh off the heels of Gran Torino's situation. And we have yet another character. Great character. I love Lady Nagant. I think she's an amazing quirk. Her backstory was great. But just like, now that we know she survived and she's recovering, she's not gonna die now. Like, unless she like left the hospital and like joined the heroes in the fight and ended up dying in the last battle or whatever. I don't know. Like, I just don't see her. I think her chances of living just skyrocketed, because like, if she was gonna die, she would have done it then. It's kind of like Gran Torino. Yet at the same time, I put Gran Torino up in very likely. What does that say about me? Maybe I'm just very spiteful over the precedents Gran Torino set with characters that should have died but didn't die. But again, I think it's implied that he might be dead, so that's kind of why I'm putting it there. That's kind of like why Deku had the cape and stuff. Again, this isn't Gran Torino section. This is Lady Nagant, but yeah, that's kind of my reasoning there. All right, so this one, Star and Stripe. Star, I'll just call her Star for the sake of simplicity. I need to emphasize yet again, the newest chapter at the time of this recording is 332. And man, it ended off with Shigaraki having his hand right on Star's face. And you might be wondering, why didn't I wait to make this video next week when we get a conclusion to the fight? While that may be true, I think this is a unique last chance to predict her fate. And I'd like to see if I'm right or wrong on this one. So I truly think that there is a decent chance she survives this fight. Mainly because this is a character that just got introduced to us. And we learned her backstory. She feels like another version of Lady Nagant. Now, I don't want to dive into like manga speculation right now because this is the most current stuff going on in the manga right now. But I just want to say that the way that the chapter ended, I feel like Horikoshi might be trying to make us think that she'll die, and then something's gonna happen. She might lose her quirk, she might not. That's up to discretion, but I think that there's a chance she's gonna live. I think there's a decent chance she's gonna live. Maybe something saved her. It could be anything, you know. But we'll just have to wait and see. But again, I kind of lean toward her actually living. Her quirk getting stolen, I lean to either like 50-50 or probably gonna happen, but she might impose an order on herself where like it doesn't get taken or whatever. So yeah, she could definitely die, but I have a sneaking suspicion that she might live in the end. All right, we got Mineta.
I want girls to love me so I can touch them.
Yeah. I explained Mineta to you, right? The requirements to be in this tier. Good. All right, now we have Ida. Tenya Ida. Ida is a kind of like Uraka situation. I doubt it. He is combat focused enough where he's going to be in dangerous situations. And obviously, you know, he's going to want to make the Tenya Ida family or the Ida family name proud. And Genium and all that, and maybe that would put him in a situation that might get him killed. But again, I think this is a very unlikely thing to happen. I think Ida and Uraka are destined to live to the end and be friends with Deku well beyond their years. Like, have long, happy lives being friends. Yeah, he's also the best boy of the class. So, you know, I'm a little biased. I think Ida is the best boy of the class. Kirishima close second, but Ida is just amazing, and I would hate it if that ray of sunshine left our lives. So, yeah, in the doubt it tier he goes, but it's possible. I don't see it happening. All right, we come to Mr. Potato Face himself. All for One, our first entry into the would be shocked if they lived tier. I think that it was destined for the longest time that All for One is gonna die. Not only is this not really his story anymore, it's very much about Shigaraki, although All for One's clinging on, he's like morphing into him and stuff. That's a whole other conversation. I guess this man, this being of All for One with the messed up face and stuff, he will die. Whether he lives on or not in Shigaraki, that's like a whole other debate, because we know they're kind of like morphing into a hybrid person right now. That's not what I'm arguing about here. I'm talking about the guy who fought All Might in Communal Ward, the one who raised Tenko, all that stuff. This guy you see smiling right here, I think that being is going to be dead. And I think it's coming soon. I don't know how it'll happen, but I have my own predictions. I'll talk about that in a little bit. Again, I don't see any scenario in any case where that man is alive by the end of the series. There's just too many reasons why he should be dead, or not dead now, but by the end, like something's gonna happen to him. But yeah, I'd put money on him going, but I wouldn't win much money because I don't think anyone would bet against that. All right, we have Arie. Arie, I'm putting in not a chance tier. I just wanted to include her because she's significant. I feel like she's going to be a major player near the end of the story, given her quirk. It's kind of been alluding to that a little bit. But yeah, look at her. Cute little Arie-chan. You know, she's just the best. Adorable little Arie. Must protect at all cost. She's definitely the top of not a chance. Horikoshi would never, he would never, ever, ever, in any universe, have Arie die. It's not, it's like the most absurd thing. So she's by far safe as can be. All right, so we have the doctor. The doctor, I think his name's Ujiko, I think. His is interesting. I only included him as one of the characters to talk about because he's sort of important, but like, he's also not a fighter. So for all we know, he could end this story like just locked away in a prison somewhere, you know? So I'm gonna put him on the fence unless like someone killed him out of rage for all the things he's done or something, or he dies in like the middle of a freak accident or something. I don't see any reason why he would be in a situation that he could die because he's locked up right now. I guess All For One could free him if he wanted to get him out, and then they could die together. So yeah, I don't know. Like, there's not really a lot to go on with the doctor, so I'm just gonna put him here for now. I feel like on the fence is fine. I think it's perfectly 50-50. Like, depending where he ends up, if All For One frees him, he'll be in a more dangerous situation. Maybe he dies with All For One, or he could just be locked up forever. It's this crazy doctor guy. I don't know. All right, Endeavor. Endeavor, most of you might assume I would put into the would be shocked if they live category, but I'm putting him right next to his son, Dobby. Endeavor, he is worthy of an entire hour of discussion on whether he should live or die by the end of the series. He is extremely well-written, complex character who I think a lot of people take for granted. Endeavor truly is an example of you shouldn't give up on a character based on first impressions. Bakugou was kind of that way as well. I loved Bakugou from the beginning, and I loved Endeavor from the beginning. Just because they're assholes at a certain point doesn't mean that they can't grow as a character and become something else by the end. Obviously, I'm not taking shots at anyone who doesn't like Endeavor because with his situation, you know, family abuse, all that, like, I totally get it. If you don't like Endeavor because of that, if that's something that's affected your life, I completely understand. But just as someone as me who's just like watching the story and watching what Endeavor has done, what he did afterward, and what he's doing now, you just see this man who, first of all, did terrible things. Second, knows he did bad and comes to the realization that he'll never truly be able to atone for the things that the lives he's ruined. But he makes the decision, despite the fact he can't undo those things, to use the life he has left to be the best person he can be, to heal the people he affected the most he possibly can, and just do his best. Like, I think there's something so like endearing about that. To endeavor something is to fight through it, you know, to like, I think there's so much about him, and the reason I put him in very likely is I do think there's a strong chance he does die. But a lot of people like to speculate that these two will die together. What I think is going to happen is obviously Todoroki and Endeavor are going to confront Dobby at a certain point. And what I think is going to happen is one of two things. One of three things, actually. There's a chance that they both burn up together, and that's the end of the story. It's just tragic, and that's just how it ends, with Todoroki like witnessing it and just like, in that case, that means Dobby was too far gone, and Endeavor is simply atoning for what he did by dying with his son that he's ruined the life of. That's one scenario. Another scenario is one of the two dies. And I think the more likely scenario with this is Endeavor dying and Dobby living. I couldn't explain to you why or how this would happen, but I think it'd be really interesting if whatever emotional things happen between the two during their confrontation, that Dobby sees Endeavor in a different way and maybe considers rejoining the family, but at the cost of him ultimately dying from whatever battle or whatever. Maybe Endeavor sacrifices himself for Dobby as a last act of love or something, you know, like that could happen. Third case, they both live. And that would be so fascinating. That to me, I think that's the most interesting one. Because just like how Endeavor living and not dying from the Nomu fight elevated his character, because he could have died right there and that would have been the end of Endeavor. But he lived, and we saw him evolve more and more into the character he is now, which is a much more understanding and compassionate person. Sure, he's like kind of broken inside still, but like it's so much interesting. And imagine trying to see these two go back with the family and patch things back together. That was a joke, pun, bad pun, patch, you know. But yeah, I don't know. I think that like there's so many possibilities with these two, and I think that it's just really interesting to talk about. I still put them in very likely because I think there's just a strong chance that they'll be dead by the end. But I hold out hope, and I think that there is a legitimate possibility that they'll walk away. Here we have Stain. I don't know, like, I think I kind of think like Stain is most likely gonna die in the end, and I don't have any logical reasons as to why I think this. I just feel like he's kind of done most of the things he needed to do as a character, and even his like talk with All Might, he's like, you know, I've done like bad things, and you know, you're a true hero, and I don't know, I just don't know how. I don't have any logistical reason as to why I think he will die. I feel like it'd be fitting. I don't see him living at the end of the series. I love Stain. I don't think I have it still behind me. It's somewhere on my shelf. I have a Stain Funko Pop. Right here. Little Stain. Love Stain, but I think the most fitting way for him to end his story arc is to die. I don't know how, don't know why, but he's back in the story though, so he's worth talking about. And I put him in very likely for now. Here we have Spinner. Spinner, really interesting. Out of all the League of Villains, he's the one to me that felt the least evil, the least broken, which makes sense because he didn't have a tragic backstory. He was just sort of like a drifter who didn't really know what he wanted out of life. Sure, he was bullied for how he looked and stuff, and that's like a big issue. It's essentially racism. But like in terms of, he doesn't have any connections to any other characters. There's nothing propelling him down. Although we do know All For One's having him be the poster child for this new army they're creating, which could lead to some crazy situations, I'm sure. I'm gonna go with doubt it for Spinner. I feel like out of all the League members, except for maybe like Compressed, because I don't know. Like, I feel like he's got the best chance to like walk away and find a new life by the end of the series. Again, not like the most logistical thing ever, but I think Spinner has potential to become not a good person, but to realize that the life of crime isn't for him, you know? But we'll see. All right, now we have Shigaraki, who is joining his master in the would be shocked if they live category. Shigaraki and Dobby, these are the two characters that I alluded to before as them being hinted at potentially being saved. The Todoroki family said, let's go save Dobby, and Deku, who we'll get to in a little bit, at the end of the war, he says he looked like someone who needed to be saved. And obviously Deku would want to save Shigaraki, but we're in a situation now where these two are essentially kind of morphing together. And I think these two are just destined to go down with the ship together. I think the end of the story, the heroes will win. I don't see any situation in which Horikoshi makes All For One and Shigaraki defeat the heroes and the world's in chaos, and that's where it ends. I think justice will prevail. That's just how it's gonna be. And I think that these two are so intertwined together that they're just gonna fall from grace together, you know? Their days are numbered. I really truly think that. These are 1A and 1B, pun intended, for my most likely characters to perish by the end. Again, there's so many reasons. I don't need to go over them all, but yeah, Shigaraki, All For One, they're just at the hip, you know? But unlike Dobby, who I think there's actually a chance he might be saved. And the very fact that both of these hinted to be redeemed or saved at the end makes me further believe that Dobby might actually, by the end, survive. Because I don't think they would set up both to be saved and then have them both be saved. Shigaraki's way too far gone. His character has shown no signs of ever being redeemed as a character anyway, outside of some flashing moments of innocence from his childhood. But, you know, as for Dobby, like, it's kind of hinted that maybe he does care still. Like, as a kid, he really cared about getting his dad's approval. So maybe, like, there's something there. But yeah, again, Shigaraki, I would be shocked if they lived by the end. All right, now we get to All Might. All Might is the most fascinating character on this list because throughout the entire story, there's been moments where I was like, not a chance he dies. And then there were moments where I'd be shocked if he lived. The whole Dark Deku saga where like All Might, like he pushes All Might away, and there were just so many flags at that moment, death flags as fans call them, where you think, man, it's looking bad for All Might. Like Deku's pushing him away. Things are extremely dark and gloomy, and his death would be like the cementing nail in the coffin of like that sadness and Deku's angst and anger and depression. But then nothing happened. He lived, and Deku is approaching happiness again. So, like, where does that leave All Might? What is his story? As Stain was telling him, like, you gotta rediscover yourself. All Might, like, he says that the true All Might, it wasn't about being the most powerful. It wasn't about the powers, the quirks. It was about showing up to save people, regardless of okay, how about does it kick me out of this page? But it's just showing up and saving people with a smile, and no matter what the cost. Like that's all he stood for. That's why he built a legacy and statues and people who still say his name. This keeps trying to kick me off, but we're almost near the end, so hopefully we can get to there. So yeah, All Might, I'm very much on the fence. I want him to live. I think there was a lot of moments he could have died already, but he just didn't. So yeah, I'm gonna put him there for now. I think there's a good chance that he can live, but we'll see. The story's been going all over the place with him. All right, so we have Deku. Deku is, well, first of all, main character of the series, in case you didn't know. He, like, I don't know. Here's the thing. I want to say there's not a chance he dies, but you never know. I'm going to go with a doubt it for Deku. The reason is just because while he is the main character and it's often alluded that he's going to have this great future as the world's #1 hero, I feel like there's a small chance that Horikoshi throws us for a loop and he might die like fighting Shigaraki, and they all just, like, it's the end of One for All and All for One. Call me crazy, I really still doubt that he will die. I give it very low chances. I think he will live, but yeah, that's just sort of what I think, what I feel, and sometimes you just gotta go with that. You can write essays on whether you think what you think about Deku. He's a very complex character. He's a great character. I love Deku. But he could be anywhere on this list depending on who you ask. And that's just sort of where I'd put him for now. I doubt it. I think there's a chance, but I just don't see him dying by the end. Now, Bakugou. Bakugou, I would actually have as a higher chance than Deku. And the reason is, if anyone remembers, like, the beginning of the series, which I'm sure a lot of you guys do, Bakugou was in trouble, and then, like, Deku, who was, like, quirkless, jumped in to save him, despite the fact that he could die. He didn't have any powers. I could totally see a situation at the end of the series where Bakugou does the same thing, but obviously the situation, the danger is far, far higher, and he I'm not gonna say he does something reckless, but he does something knowing, like, that he'll die from it. And ultimately, that would be a very fitting end to Bakugou's arc. Like, some people could say his arc already ended with him apologizing to Deku, but the whole thing with Deku and Bakugou's rivalry was early on, Deku was obsessed not with combat, but with saving people. And Bakugou was all about beating villains. He didn't care so much about saving people. And as the series has gone on, it's shown more and more that Bakugou is learning to prioritize saving people as much as Deku is mastering his combat. We've seen that a lot throughout the series. And it could end with Bakugou not worrying about beating the villain, but prioritizing saving someone. And I kind of think that would be a fitting end to him. I'm not saying I want it to happen. I want Bakugou to live. I want all the students to live. I just think that there's a legitimate chance Bakugou could die at the end of the series. I don't know. Maybe I'm crazy, but you know, I think he has a higher chance than Deku for sure. So yeah. Again, pretty casual video. Character survival chances. And yeah, I included the I forgot to put Hawks on this list. I realized that after I already uploaded all the images. If I were to put Hawks on here, I'd put him somewhere and doubt it. I don't see Hawks or like Best Jeanist dying. They've already done enough to where I've been like, oh no, their time has passed if they were gonna die. So yeah, this is my list. I picked the characters I thought were the most interesting to talk about. So really, like, this series isn't one that typically has a lot of deaths in it. Well, there's only been 3 notable ones: Sir Night-Eye, Midnight, and Twice. And even those characters weren't frontline characters. They weren't like the main cast. Like, they were sort of secondary to tertiary. Twice is like a secondary character. Midnight was very much a tertiary, third row character. Not knocking their characters. That's just what they are relative to the story. And Night-Eye was also kind of like that second to third. Like, he was like a second tier character because he meant a lot to Morio. But anyway, this series isn't one that I think that a lot of deaths will ultimately happen, but I think that we're set up to get a few. I think these 2 are for sure gonna go. I don't know how, I don't know when, but whenever the series is done, I'd be shocked if these 2 are still around. And again, I've already talked about all this stuff. Most of the students, I think, are perfectly safe. The only students I think are having even like a remote chance of dying would be Kirishima and Bakugou. That's just kind of how I feel. And then the only students with even a small inkling of a chance: Deku, Todoroki, Mina, Uraka, and Ida. So yeah. Hope you guys enjoyed. Leave your thoughts down below. Did I make a mistake? Do you guys think I was totally wrong about something? Where would you put certain characters? And if you like this video, consider giving it a like, subscribing. I like to talk about My Hero Academia all the time. I do manga reactions every week. And yeah. And I also plan on doing the anime reactions as soon as Season 6 happens, which Season 6 is going to be glorious. So yeah. Hope you guys enjoyed. Sorry if the lighting is weird. I'm recording this at night. But, you know, it's kind of a spooky atmosphere. We're talking about potential deaths and whatnot. All right. Hope you guys enjoyed. Until next time, this has been Mighty Gazelle, hoping you all have a mighty day. See you guys.